everyone. Thanks for coming. My name is Romain Fonteyne. I'm a French aerospace and system engineer. I've been what you may call a Martian. I've been working on robotic missions to Mars, Curiosity, and the Mars program for many years now. And I'm also the lead on the Space Tech Tree project for Foresight, which I hope you will find interesting. And of course, it's a kind of interview session, but I would like to have feedback because it's important, certainly for me or Foresight. It's, I guess, for everyone, including like middle school pupils, students, professionals, and maybe funders in the future, in order to provide more, let's say, a broader map of what's going on in the space. So it could be astrobiology, it could also be something else. So I really hope that you will find it interesting. So this is actually the website where you will find the tree, which is not the latest version, but anyway, we can discuss that later. In the afternoon, there is supposed to be a social kind of event where we can discuss and have your inputs. So I would be happy if you could help anyway.
Okay, yeah, let me share. Sorry.
It's the link to the tree.
Yeah. So you need to go on the Foresight website actually, and when you're on the Foresight website, up on the menu you have Foresight X. So those are all our like spin-off collaborations, and you have the tech trees, and here you have all the tech trees area. And when you see Romain, you click on space, and you have access to.
You mean like startups and stuff that come through the Foresight, or?
Not really. So basically, we do that for Foresight along with Costas, which is there. This is embedded in Foresight. So this is one of the projects related to space. It was actually the first project related to space. We started space like in, when did I write? Let's say December last year, and the tech tree started, let's say, in February this year. And it's going to continue hopefully for the next few years. This is one box among many other boxes inside the tree itself, and one box is one subfield of space. And as you know, space is extremely big. It can encompass everything you can imagine, from computer science to astrobiology to propulsion to anything else. So it's pretty complicated to map out everything, but let's say, well, trying our best. Yeah, so if you zoom out, you will have the broad picture of the tree. And yeah, you can even zoom out a bit more.
Whoa. It's here. Okay. Yeah. How many departments do you have? Like how many like big pockets?
So big pocket.
Already.
Okay. So one box is called a node, and
Yeah.
because it's connected to each other. One thing that is hard with space, and I'm sure you can all agree with that, is that some you can just say, okay, it's going to evolve based on physics, like propulsion. But some are just based on technology. And so when you want to do let's say, a technology tree, which is, let's say, a roadmap for technologies and challenges and also capabilities in space, you cannot choose only one way to just guide this process. So in order to do that, we decided to choose, let's say, the physics one for when it's viable, for example, space propulsion. But for others, like debris mitigation, it will be mostly driven by technology and the challenges that we need to tackle that are currently faced. Right now, we have about, I don't know, I would say like 10 big boxes with many sub-boxes. But this is not the latest version again. And I hope to have maybe 4 or 5 times that in the future, because this is just a tiny part of what's going on in space. So.
And can you tell us for who you are building, like who can use it and in which way? Because like apparently there are different people, different profiles that can actually benefit from those tech trees.
Absolutely. So one of my goals, and that's something I cherish very much, is to help students, pupils, young generations understand what they can do in the space. It's really hard for people, especially those who are not really aware of what's going on, what they can do, what they can achieve, and where they can contribute, right? So if you have such a summary of what's going on, what was built, and where we're going to go, what we want to do, then perhaps they can say, oh, I'm interested in that area, so perhaps I will continue my studies and focus on this area to do this and that and that. Another way you can find it interesting is, well, if we have enough details to make it as complete as possible, then you can understand what is underfunded, what needs more funding, and what you believe could move forward much faster than it actually is if you give more funding to this area. So it could be space propulsion with a nuclear thermal propulsion to go further away in the solar system or faster. It could also be medicine in order to, for example, cure cancer or do something for astronauts when they are on Mars, on the moon, on Titan, why not? So you have many ways to understand the tree. You can also use that for other purposes, for example, for your own knowledge. You can also contribute, as I asked you if you wanted to contribute to. So I hope it will be not only for one type of people, but for everyone. And one of the challenges is to make it understandable by everyone. Not everyone will understand all the words. So that's something that we need to do to make sure that even the person who is 10 years old can understand, let's say, at least the concept. And when you have the boxes, you don't have any of the boxes. You have a description of what the box means. So if you click on a box, you will have a bigger explanation of the box, yes, you can. And if you're really interested in the topic, you will have some references inside. So it could be newspapers, scientific articles. It could also be well, YouTube videos, if we have any or stuff like that. So we try to make it as complete as possible. And then if you're really interested in doing that, then the next step is to bring well, the companies and people working on this topic, on these questions. This is something that is not embedded into the tree yet, because I have about 12,000 entities so far. So if I have to write one entity in one box, it's more than 12,000 boxes, and this is 1,000 boxes. The whole stuff is about 1,000 boxes. So this is not viable. So once the tool allows us to have all the entities in a very good way, a very fashioned way, then you will have the entities plus the names of people, experts. So people with a lot of experience that you can trust, that can maybe guide you in your process for your career.
Do you have actually a funnel to be able to depart people that you can trust and people that you cannot trust? Like what is your governance actually to allow people to participate and contribute to this tech tree? Do you already come up with a sort of governance?
No, we don't. First of all, because it is a local version. So basically, it's not server-wise.
Yeah.
So if you do changes on your own, it will not stay in the tree, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So you have to pass by me or Costas eventually to have changes approved. And so this is something that we can just cross-check or review. And if we just don't want those changes, we just don't accept them.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I believe that everyone can give an opinion. And I think that even if you're not an expert in space, you can give an opinion of how it looks. Because eventually it's not for me, it's not for two people, it's for as many people as possible. So I guess you will have opinions about the colors, the way boxes are next to each other, something like that. So, and it's still important because overall the public is what matters, and this is for the public, right?
So how can we contribute at this stage? We write you.
So for example, you will have well, the paper that Alison gave to you.
Yes.
We could also, for example, later in a few weeks, have a look at them and see what could be interesting to be implemented in the tree.
Yeah.
Another thing is you can contact me, and then we can discuss a specific area. This afternoon you will have a session where you can see the tree more in depth, more in details. As I said, it's more than 1,000 boxes, so it's hard to go over all of them. So these are all ways you can contribute. You can go on the website that is public, and then you can see the tree in details yourself. And then if you have questions, well, you can find me either on the internet, you have my name anyway, or on LinkedIn, on Discord of the Foresight as well. So we can communicate. There are many ways.
You mentioned the limitation of the tool itself, and you wanted to expand the boxes. And I've been exploring research world mappings or whatever we want to call it, outcome graphs, tag trees. They are always a graph that tries to summarize an area of knowledge. And I always look at them as an instrument to incentivize science discoverability. For instance, you said it's a summary for young generations. But we have a set of incentives in academia that incentivize people to keep their ideas to their home, to themselves. So a set of questions is, who are the architects of this tree besides you? Have you experienced this kind of challenge, like, hey, you are a reference in this area of knowledge, you are doing space, can you share your vision of what is missing? Are they willing to do so? And you also mentioned that these are especially important for younger generations. That's how I see it as well. Early researchers that are starting a new area. But what is the role of the older researchers in this kind of conversation?
Okay, thanks. I will try to reply to those. The first one will be about the challenges. Yes, we do. For example, we had a discussion with the CEO of Wider Space, a friend of Jeff Bezos, for information. And one of the problems that we have is Costas and I are not Americans. So when we try to speak with Americans, or even Asian people, Chinese, and so on, there will be some problems, such as ITAR regulations. So they can say or not say some things. We don't have access to all the resources on the web. There are plenty, that's true, but some you have to pay for it, or it's not always open access articles. So we have some problems like that limit the tree somewhat. But we believe that anyway, even if we don't have those information shared at first, it could be that in the future, some people with this more or less same information will add it to the tree, or perhaps it's already in the tree. We don't even know because we don't know what they would share with us. Right? So that's one way we see things. And no, we are only Costas and I doing the tree, so we are only two. So I have to reply to your question. And if you could repeat the third question, that would help me, please.
Let me just,
Yeah,
in
sure.
terms of architects, how do you try to avoid your own biases of the space? If it's two people, you already mentioned that you are open to feedback, but how do you fight those
Exactly.
biases?
So there are many ways. First of all, it's we have experience. I worked on Mars rovers, so I know how it is there. But I don't know how it is in medicine, for example. So what's better to do is to either read books or videos if you want to watch videos, but also have interviews with experts. And those experts are extremely valuable. They give you information that you cannot find in the books or articles. And they also provide feedback on what is already in the tree. So what is the node that is relevant to be connected to this one? Or is this one really relevant for the tree? Stuff like that. So it's extremely important. And we try to continue this process. You have to understand that the tree, it's not a one-way process. It's an iterative process. So we do a lot of literature review, and then based on that, we have a lot of nodes, those ones, for example. And then as I said, we interview people, and then we refine the tree. And of course, along the way, we have new nodes because we have read more, we have new information, we have new people maybe communicating with us, so and so on and so forth. You see, so it's a very long process, and I wouldn't say it's the first iteration for sure, but that's definitely not the last. And as I said, it's maybe 1/5 of what could be the tree next year, perhaps. So yeah.
Sorry, if I can add to your question, to what Romain said. So from the beginning of the tree project, as Foresight defined as I understood it, expert input is central to it. So you're really encouraged to contact experts and get their input. And there's a two-way, let's say, it's a two-way contribution. So they contribute and they are also made aware of the tree and how they can be useful for them in the future. And we have been connecting people, and they're actually very happy to contribute, a lot of them. So people were just writing emails to experts out of the blue a lot of the times, and they're very happy to discuss their field of work and really help us with the tree. So yeah, expert input is central, and we're getting a lot of input from them, and they're happy to help.
Oh, that's good to know. The last question was about the tooling itself, and what kind of features do you think are missing at the moment? I know this is very complex to create tools for this kind of.
I would say way too many.
Top three. I always say that when people
top
say
three?
too many, it's like give me three.
Sure. No, really, I that's my opinion. I think the tool is not user friendly at all for now. It has a long way to go. I believe that for example, when I create the boxes, I can write the title and the description, fair enough. But I believe some places are missing, for example, for the companies, I mentioned them, or labs. We need a space for that, given space for that. I believe that we need to create a kind of tutorial at the very beginning when you enter the website to guide you through the tree to understand what is what, how do you kind of go around the tree, how can you communicate with me, how can you ask questions to me or even to Foresight in general, stuff like that. And another one may be, I don't know, sometimes it's hard to connect boxes. So, well, that's how it is. So if you want to connect to one box, it may connect to another one or it just doesn't connect at all. Or if you want to move 10 boxes, you have to click on all of the boxes and move them one by one. Yeah, so I had to move 1,000 boxes many times, one by one. I was in pain. I'm still in pain. I'm trying not to do it often. So
we can work on the user experience together.
Yes, so I believe the tool has a lot of improvements to make, but I think it's going to be better and better in the near future.
For
So.
sure.
Yeah, I would like to just to be super upfront with everyone. I would like to discuss this kind of tooling and infrastructure for graphs with anyone that is willing to discuss them, because at Protocol Labs we are kind of working our ways into create a protocol to share graphs, because this is supposed to be public. This is supposed to be forked. This is supposed to be a collaborative exercise. And you've been doing a great job of even getting people on the same page, doing this kind of sharing of ideas. But the engineer inside me is like, can I query the graph? Can I just have this specific view of, hey, if I want to, let's say, go build something smaller to measure humidity on a specific planet, what are the main challenges? This kind of queryability. Do you have it?
Yeah, so, okay.
Oh.
So you can see here, okay, 2 colors, but there are 3 colors. And the 3 colors are for 3 different categories. The orange ones are for challenges that are yet to be tackled for a given node, so a given technology or capability, or a given topic, for example, astronomy. For example. The green one are more like for the capabilities, so what you can do. For example, chemical propulsion is a capability. And then the blue ones are for technologies related to a given capability. And each, like the blue or the green boxes, can have challenges. And these challenges are, again, they have a description. And so you know what you have to do in order to go there, or what needs to be done in order to move forward. So that's one of the goals of the tree. And as you can see, there are main challenges. Well, ISRU, of course, it's well known that you have in any topic you want. Space forward, you have some. Diffusion mitigation, of course, you have plenty. Space propulsion, you will have others as well. So we try to make it as complete as possible. And as I said, the main thing that is missing right now on what you're seeing now is the list of entities. But we have it externally, which is almost 13,000 entities, so quite a lot. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to hijack the conversation. I'm sure we can have these kind of discussions outside. So
Yeah, I guess so. One of the things I often wonder about is like, you know, if you go into the literature, you can kind of inventory all of the things that exist and the sort of current challenges people have identified, and you end up with something that's sort of like this. And what you want to add on top of that graph is talking to the researchers and getting the down low on like what they think is up, right? Or like which of these boxes or like which of the lines of inquiry, like kind of everyone in the field knows are not going anywhere, but they have to like save face because that's all they're funding, right? Like you want like the what's your thought on the next 10 years, right? And so I guess I wonder, like, I don't know, how do you, I think this is, we've sort of already talked about this a little bit, but like, how do you get people to both give you their good forward-thinking ideas, but also annotate this with like, oh, actually, like, this was a big deal, there's a huge amount of literature on it, but we know it's not going anywhere, and everyone's trying to pivot out of this. So like, for example, like, I did a deep dive on like people thought that using photosynthetic organisms to make biofuels was going to be a good idea because like intuitively you're like, oh, like sunlight goes into the fuel, it like seems like it should work. And then it was a big deal in like the 2010s or something, and now everyone's like abandoning ship because in fact it doesn't work as well as they thought. But to figure that out, you have to actually talk to the people.
And they need to share their ideas.
And they need to feel comfortable sharing. I mean, not just their good ideas, but also like their honest, like, oh yeah, like everyone knows this is dead sort of ideas. So I guess what's the? I mean, and I think you sort of have done a process that's some mix of like what currently exists and forward-looking stuff. But I wonder if you have thoughts on how you could, you know. Yeah, like what would it look like to fully annotate this graph with sort of the gossip, right?
Well, one way to first remove all the ideas that were one day correct but nowadays completely wrong is to look at the newest literature reviews,
Yeah.
like the articles from this year, last year, and so on, that just say, oh no, what you said in 70, it's not good. Well, it's true that when people do not want to share ideas, it's getting let's say complicated to add up to the tree, but usually they are okay to share about a topic that we want to talk about. For example, Earth observation was, we had a very great discussion with the CEO I mentioned earlier, and he was okay to review the tree node by node and say, oh, maybe this connection is not right, you know, and stuff like that. He was also okay to give challenges that for him, 2 or 3 challenges that for him were important that we need to tackle. Well, of course, they were quite well known, like, okay, there are too many debris, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes it could be more interesting, you know? So that's one way to have more information in the tree. Other than that, well, mostly literature review, otherwise it's hard. One way to make them understand what's next or what's missing, maybe it's by giving the technology readiness level. So far it's not inside the tree. And as you may understand, giving it for every technology could be hard. We don't have this information all the time. But if we have, that's something that is actually missing in the tree, in the tool. If we have the possibility to add the TRL level for every technology or capability, then it will give you a rough idea of, well, what could be missing in between 2 nodes or what could be actually missing after the last node. So.
I think there's maybe this bias where researchers, they don't want to give you their good ideas, but they're happy to like shit talk other people announce challenges that other people who promote those technologies won't tell you. And so
because
maybe
they have
that's
a
the
reputation
angle.
at risk. If they do it in a public setting, they have a reputation at risk.
Oh yeah.
But to avoid that, you see, we ask, do you want to include your name in the ones we thank for, building up the tree? And if they say no, well, we just don't put the name. But if they say yes, they're happy, well, then we just put the name. So in the latest version that you don't have here, you have the names of people that accepted to be thanked, publicly. So you'll have the name and the company where they work, so people can see also who contributed, and they can perhaps contact them themselves.
Completely. And it seems to be also a tool that has a lot to do with decentralization. So what are you envisioning in the future? Maybe like some like decentralization of this tool. I mean, like in terms of like technologies that you can use.
Well, that's a tough question. Well, one hope that I have is that. So that's something I mentioned a long time ago to Foresight. It's the tree that we have today. It's a picture of what we did and what we are having and what we want to have in the next few years. Right? But this picture can change over time. And so I hope that we'll have the possibility to keep every picture that we have. So basically have a tree per kind of time frame and see how much we evolved compared to what we wanted to do and what we need to do to maybe go beyond what we achieved. And the best way to do that is perhaps to find a way to store all this knowledge and not just update the tree in a maintenance way.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.